Okay, thanks for coming to the webinar of Spring course from JPassion.com. The topic we are going to cover is Spring 3 and Maven, topic number 6. For those of you who have not participated or not a member of JPassion.com, so this is our Spring course content. So this is our 6th webinar, and from next week we are going to spend 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sessions on Spring MVC, and then Spring 3 Webflow. And we have about 25 topics altogether, so this is pretty intensive Spring course. So let's start with the Spring and Maven. For those of you who have participated in the Maven Basics last week webinar, we covered in the session about the Maven basic concept. Here we are going to see how we can use Maven in terms of project management. So we'll talk about a couple of topics. This is a short presentation. So let's talk about the repositories for Spring artifacts. In terms of maintaining Spring artifacts, there are two different places where they are maintained. One is Maven Central, that's the default Maven repository, and there is another one called Enterprise Bundle Repository, EBR in short. So Maven Central is the default repository, and because it's a default repository, you do not have to specify anything about Maven Central. The Maven shell knows where to go to get the artifacts. However, if you are trying to get artifacts from Enterprise Bundle Repository, and then you have to actually specify EBR repository location. So this EBR is in fact maintained by Spring Source, and it hosts all the libraries that integrate with the Spring. In fact, the Spring Source actually has a control. I mean, they have the control in terms of all the libraries that might not be even in Maven Central. So which repository do you want to use? In general, the guideline that was given by Spring Source is that if you care about OSGI, use EBR, because EBR maintains all the OSGI compatible artifacts. If OSGI is not a big deal for you, then you can use either. In general, the recommendation is you choose one place or the other for your project, and do not mix them. The reason is because they actually use a different artifacts for the same artifact. So let me show you what I mean by that. So this is a pom.xml file which uses a Maven Central default repository. So for Spring Core, the artifact ID is spring-core. Okay. And for Spring Expression artifact is the spring-expression, but the group ID org Spring Framework, that's the same with EBR. So this is EBR based on pom.xml file. So for the same core, it uses this artifact ID. So org.springframework.core and org.springframework.expression. They use the same group ID. Now, if you are using EBR, as I said before, you have to specify the repository location. So this is the repository location of EBR. Okay. All right. A question from Muntaj. What is OSGI? OSGI is actually module technology. So basically, Eclipse based on OSGI, Glassfish is based on OSGI. So it's basically make your Java application much more modular. Yes, so you might want to actually kind of Google OSGI, and there are a lot of information about OSGI. Okay, moving forward, creating Spring Maven projects. So there are a few options in terms of creating Spring MVC Maven project. This is something that we are going to cover a little bit in our next week, the Spring MVC Basics 1. So option 1 is you can create a web application from vanilla Maven, and then you can add Spring MVC stuff. You know, Spring MVC is basically web application, right? So you can certainly build from the basic web app archetype. If you are using Spring STS, or if you're using Eclipse with STS plugins, and then you can create Spring MVC application from STS template project. So you know, basically Spring STS comes with a set of template projects, and you just choose it, and basically when you're using it, template project, and then project you created from, it's basically you know, using the same, let's say, the dependencies in the same dependencies you know, in the pom.xml file. And option 3 is that you can copy existing Maven projects. So this is something that we are going to play around in our hands-on lab. So option 1, so this is something that we play around in our Maven Basics presentation and hands-on lab last week. So you can create Maven archetype web app, and then you can add the Spring pieces to it. Option 2 is you can create Spring MVC application from template. Again, this is assuming you're using STS, or if you're using Eclipse with STS plugin installed. So here you can choose, you know, the one of these template project. Option 3 is copying Spring MVC project. So suppose if you have Spring MVC application, you can copy it, and then you can rename, you know, you can give a new name, and that could be pretty convenient in many cases. Okay, so that's the end of the presentation. So as I said, this is a relatively short presentation. So let's take a look at the hands-on lab. So exercise 1 is creating a standalone Java Maven project. So this is Java SE Maven project, and then we are going to create a new Java SE Maven project by copying the existing Maven project. Exercise 2 is doing the same thing for Spring MVC project. So here we are going to copy Spring MVC project to create a new Spring MVC project. Exercise 3 is for building multi-module Maven projects. So last week, when we talk about Maven Basics, we didn't really talk about multi-module Maven project, and that is the topic that we are going to cover, actually Maven Advanced topic. But here we are going to take a look at the how your Spring MVC application, Spring MVC project, could be multi-moduled. And here we are also going to learn how to use JRabel. I talked about JRabel a couple of times before, so we are going to see how you can use a JRabel in multi-module Maven project, so that you change in any of those modules, and then you can see the change right away through the magic of JRabel. Exercise 4 is checking out Spring SDK sample applications. Spring SDK has a few sample applications, and you can check out from the SVN repository, and then, you know, these are all Maven projects, by the way. Okay, so let's move on to exercise 1. So this is for creating standalone Java Maven project by copying existing Maven project. So first of all, we are going to import all the sample application of these hands-on labs. So File, Import, and select existing Maven project, and click Browse, and go to the directory where you unzip this hands-on lab. So once you unzip this hands-on lab, you should have spring3_maven directory. Underneath you should have samples. So when you click samples and OK, then you are going to see these Maven projects that are provided as part of this hands-on lab zip file, and finish. So we have actually few sample applications. So one is the Spring MVC application, and the second one, well, actually the standalone application, MVC application, and we have a multi-module application. So so let's actually run this application first to make sure this is actually running. So I'm going to just run it using, so this is the standalone application, and I'm going to run as a Java application, and it's a very simple Java application, but it's a Spring application. So it basically displays hello Sang Shin. Okay. Now, in order to create a new project, what you do is right-click, copy, and right-click and paste. And you are going to give a new name. So here, I'm going to give a new name like a Spring, Maven Spring Standalone 2. Okay. And you can use whatever location of your choice. Okay. If you want to use a different location, maybe you can say temp, and you want to actually give the name of the project like this, so that this directory will maintain all the metadata of this project like this. So now I created right here standalone application 2. I'm going to move to this working set. So this is the same application. So now you want to change pom.xml file, because it just copied the file, but pom.xml file is still, the containing old name. So here, the artifact ID and the name, you want to give new name like this. Okay, and save, and then you can build the application, and it should work pretty much the same way. Okay, so nothing fancy about this. So let's move on to exercise 2. Exercise 2, we are going to create new Spring MVC application. So here you can change it and run it, and you should see the different result. Not a big deal. So exercise 2 is creating new Spring MVC project by copying existing Spring MVC Maven project. So here we are going to actually do the same thing. So I have Spring MVC project right here. So let's just run the application to make sure it is running. So basically it's just displaying hello world, nothing fancy. So I'm going to again copy, and then I want to select this working set and then paste. I'm not sure whether I should actually let me just try it one more time. Copy and paste. Okay, here we go. Alright, so I'm going to name it as Maven Spring MVC 2. Again, you can use default location, or you can specify different location, temp, and again you want to keep the same name like this, and OK. So it's actually created here. I want to move to the working set, Java working set. So I now have Maven Spring MVC Maven 2, Spring MVC Maven Spring MVC 2 application. So first of all, I like to change pom.xml file as I did in the standalone application. So here I'm going to name the artifact ID to 2, and then the name also 2. Okay, and save it. Now for Spring MVC application, there are a couple of places that you also want to make a change. So let me actually show you what I mean by that. So we just change the artifact ID and name. And there could be a place, for example, like a WAR file name. So, if you want to have a different WAR file name, you might want to change that as well. And then you also have to change the settings. Okay, so you can actually go to settings and then org eclipse wst common component, and then you are going to change this deploy name like this. Okay, so for the sake of finding out all the old name, what I want to do is I can do search. So I select this new file, new project, and search and file, and let's see whether there are places that contains Maven Spring MVC like this. And search. So here you can see the settings file is actually containing old names. So here I might want to change to MVC2 like this. And so here, okay, so WAR file name you also want to change to 2. Okay. And that's pretty much all you have to do. And you save it, and then you got the brand new Spring MVC application with its own artifact ID and a WAR file name and things like that. So you can certainly run this application, and it should work as expected. Okay, it's still doing it. Question from Chris: if you change a project name, will Eclipse refactor the POM and settings? No, you have to manually change. Okay, so it works. Now let's move on to exercise 3. So this is actually main part of this hands-on lab. So multi-module Maven project. So we haven't learned Spring MVC yet, but this sample application Pet Clinic is in fact Spring MVC application. So I'm not going to actually get into nitty-gritty detail of how Spring MVC application is supposed to work. Here the goal of this exercise is to get you a sense of how multi-module project is constructed. It just happened to be Spring MVC application. So this Pet Clinic sample application is made of 3 modules. Pet Clinic model module. So this module basically maintains all the models like a pet owner, class, and things like that. So end result of this model is a jar file. And then we have another module called the validator. Validator contains a set of validator Java code. So basically contains validator classes. Again, it creates a jar file as a package. And then we have a Pet Clinic web app module which uses these 2 modules. Okay. So if you take a look at this sample application, you can see we have a Pet Clinic parent module, and underneath it has the sub-modules: model, validator, and web app. Okay, and this parent has pom.xml file. So let's just take a look at that. So here we have parent module, and if you take a look at the pom.xml file, you can see this contains these modules internally: Pet Clinic validator, Pet Clinic the web app, and Pet Clinic model. So basically these are subdirectories. Okay, subdirectories of Pet Clinic parent directory. So when you basically when you build parent, it will actually go to each sub modules, Pet Clinic validator, and then it will use a pom.xml file of that module to build it, and then it goes to the next module, and then it goes to the next module. Okay? So this structure is very common way of building relatively large applications where you want to actually modularize different functionality into different modules. Okay, so here if you take a look at the model, if you take a look at the pom.xml file, you can see it's using this parent pom file, okay, and it's creating a jar file as a package. Okay. And same thing for validator. So if you take a look at the pom.xml file for the validator module, again is importing the parent artifact, and then it's a jar file, and then it has its own few dependencies. In this case, it has a dependency to the model. Okay. So if you take a look at the model classes, it's basically model classes like owner, person, pet type, specialty, vet, and things like that. For validator module is basically maintaining validator classes. So owner validator Java and my validator Java, and then pet clinic web app is the application that contains the main pieces. So here you are going to see Java code, as well as you are going to see web app directory where the web application specific files, for example web.inf, styles and images, all those things are in fact maintained. So here if you take a look at the pom.xml file, it should have a dependency to model as well as validator. So it has a dependency to the model as well as a validator. Okay. Alright, so let's try to build this guy. So here, one more thing I want to actually talk about is JRabel. So as I said before, JRabel is a JVM plugin that monitors any changes you make in Spring application, for that matter, any kind of application, whether that is Trust2 or Wicked or Tapestry or Hibernate or JPA. It detects any changes, whether those files are in fact Java files or context configuration files or JSP files, and then we reflect the change right away. So it's really a time saver. So instead of you wait for the building and redeploying the application to see the change, all you have to do is to configure JRabel with your application and then save the change and refresh your browser. Boom, you see the change. So it is really a time saver. So for multi-module project, you have to have a JRabel rabel.xml file created for each module. So rabel.xml file, I'm going to explain what the rabel.xml file for the after building it. So I'm going to build. So here I'm going to say run as Maven install. Okay. You want to do install because you want to have model jar file and the validator jar file to be in your local repository, so your web app can actually access it. Okay. So in the pom.xml file, one of the things that JRabel support is the what is called I want to go to the parent version. This one. One of the plugin that is available is what is called the JRabel Maven plugin. So if you have this plugin in your pom.xml file, in this case parent pom.xml file, it will automatically generate what is called the rabel.xml file. So what is rabel.xml file? Rabel.xml file is, for example, let me show you example of rabel.xml files. So here, go to target and classes and rabel.xml file. Rabel.xml file is the XML file in which the directory where you want JRabel agent to monitor. So in this case, it's monitoring this particular directory, target classes. Okay, And for the validator, same thing. So if you go to target and classes and the variable.xml file, it basically specifies the directory where JLabel agent is actually monitoring. So whenever you build your Maven project using JLabel Maven plugin, it will generate this label.xml file automatically. So whenever any file, Java file that got changed, Java file got changed, and the class file will be created, and that will be detected by JLabel, and JLabel will actually reload that class so that you can see the change right away. Okay, so that is basically JLabel stuff, and we are going to actually try to change a few things later on. We are going to make a change in model, and we are going to change a validator, and we are going to change in web app and see those changes right away. Okay. Alright, so let me see a couple of questions. I have a question on Java EE6, and I want to know what is the difference between session bean and managed bean. Okay, so yeah, this is not directly related to this particular topic, so I'll actually respond to you offline. Okay, after this session. Does the order of the modules matter? No. Well, you specify the dependency in pom.xml file. Okay, so that is basically order in a sense you specify. Can modules have interdependencies? So module 1 and module 2 and module 2 back to module 1. Is there any way to manage this sort of cyclical dependency? Yes. So Maven is actually intelligent enough to make an intelligent decision. But you might still want to actually check whether there is in fact a cyclical dependency like that. Okay, but in many cases, Maven actually make intelligent decisions. I see the modules are inside the parent and outside too. So yes. So basically these are different projects. Okay. So we have in fact a full project, a parent project which contains this child project. Okay. So this is the way that it is going to be shown in the Eclipse. But if you take a look at the so each of these projects has its own POM file. Okay. So you can actually build one each if you want to. If you want to build just model, basically you can do run as and Maven install and build individually. Okay. So they are in fact different, let's say, project. But if you build parent, because parent contains pom.xml file in which some modules are specified, basically whenever you have these modules, what it's going to do is it actually go to each of these modules and actually build. Okay. All right. So question from Lily: if I change one class in Pet Clinic model, do I need Maven clean install this model to run the whole project? Yeah, so that's the reason you don't, especially if you're using JLabel. Basically, JLabel will detect any changes in any of these modules, and all you have to do is just save the change, and then you refresh the browser, and you should be all set. Okay. If you're not using JLabel, then you might have to redeploy the application. Okay, in some cases, or if you're using hot deploy, the ID and Tomcat in that case might actually detect the change and redeploy all over. Okay. Okay, so moving forward. So let me just to show you what we want to try in exercise 3. So we just studied the modules, and then we build it, right? Run as, and we clean it first, and we did Maven install for parent module. So when you do Maven install on parent module, then it goes to all the sub modules. In this case, you have the 3 sub modules. Okay. So we take a look at the label.xml gets created. Oh, okay. We talk about this JLabel plugin. So if you add this plugin in your POM XML file in your parent, then label.xml file gets automatically created. So we see label.xml file for model module, and we see label.xml file for validator module, and we see label.xml file for pet clinic web module. Okay. Question from Vitira: is JLabel only for Spring project, or can it be used for any kind of project? The answer is any kind of project. Okay. So as I said before, you can use JLabel for even standalone application. Okay, but you can use it typically, any kind of web application framework, such as a Spring Framework, Tapestry, Weakest, Struts2, JPA, Hibernate, you name it. Okay. All right. So moving forward, so we are going to run this application first, and then we are going to make changes. Okay. And so let's run the application. So we select the web module and then run on the server. You can select either Tomcat or vFabric TC server. So I choose TC server. Is there an easy way to add the Maven plugin in Eclipse? Yes. So if you take a look at the hands-on lab of, again, if you go to let's see. If you go to JPassion.com, there is okay, so yeah, actually I have a couple of places in terms of how to so if you go to JLabel here, and if you go to getting started with the Eclipse Tomcat, if you take a look at the documentation, so the here I explain how to install Maven plugins and Tomcat to Eclipse IDE. So you have to actually install two Maven plugins. The first one, M2 Eclipse Core Maven plugin, you can actually install it from Marketplace. Okay, so you can just go to Help and Eclipse Marketplace, and then you search M2 Eclipse, and then you just install it. And then you have to install WTP Maven plugin. That you have to specify the repository location. So click Help and install new software, and then you specify this location, and then you install. So basically that two Maven plugins is something that you have to install to Eclipse. Okay, so let's see, what is a TC server? Is it for running EJBs? Yeah, TC server is like a Tomcat. So TC server is from Spring source, and it's basically very customized. Well, actually I would say the production quality Tomcat. So Spring source guys added, let's say, management functionality and things like that. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Question from Vijay saying, for a Maven project, how do I include commercial libraries which are not available in Maven catalog? So you have to actually have either you have to actually get those library files in your local repository, and then you can specify them in your pom.xml file, or you have to have some repository server somewhere for those files. Okay. All right. So let's actually get back. Okay, here we go. Alright, so let's see whether we are seeing this guy. So basically find owner, and you can add owner, and things like that, and you can add owner, and then it will do some validation. Okay, so it looks like I already made a change here. So what I like to do is, whenever we click find owner and add owner, so add owner object is used to fill up these fields. Okay, and so what we're going to do is we are going to change the model module here. So model module here is containing owner. Okay, so this is something I've changed it before, so I'm going to actually change it to, so like this, and you save to change, and then you are going to refresh. Then you should see the change right away. So the reason you see the change right away here is because JRabel, in fact, if you take a look at the console, you can see JRabel is reloading that particular class because it detected that owner .java has been changed and the new class has been created, so it will reload that owner class. So here, it's an example where we change a module, the model module, and we were able to actually see the change right away. Okay. Now the next one we want to change is a validator. So we just did the 3.4 modify model, the module. So you just change this owner.java, and then we were able to see the change right away. Okay. Some troubleshooting tips. Okay, now here we are going to change a validator module, and basically we are going to add a new validator, and then we are going to use that validator for validating for adding an owner. Okay, so for now the validator logic is like this. So if you actually take a look at the owner validator, so if you take a look at the validator logic, here, this owner validator is the one that gets used. Okay, so here it's using whenever the fields are not being, let's say, filled, this owner validator, this validator will kick in and display the message. So for example, if I want to comment out these 6 lines of code, Control 7 and save it, and now if I want to see validation, add owner, and you can see this validation is not being kicked in because I comment out, right? Now if I want to have these two, maybe address or the get city, I want to have maybe create a new method. So I'm going to create a new method. So I'm going to call it my method, and okay. So my method has been created and is being called here. So for here, when address is not being filled, I want to actually use a different message. So this one I'm going to just say X so that it doesn't find from the properties file. So it will use this as an error message. So very wrong, something like that. And you save, and if you refresh the page, then you can see the address is now using new the validation logic. So you can see again, this is actually the magic of JRabel. So even if you create a new method, that new method will be detected and will do the right thing. Okay. All right. So now what we did was playing around of changing the validator, and here we also have a my validator, was is created. And now what we want to do is I'm going to actually just use the documentation to show the change you could make. So we have created a new validator Java file called the my validator. So here we're basically checking whether the user has filled the field or the name is Anton. Okay. And then we are going to change the context configuration file. So here we have to provide the bean declaration of that validator so that my validator object gets created. And then in our add owner form.java file, we are going to auto wire this validator object. And then for creating the form, the handling the form submission, we are also calling the validator, new validator validate method. Okay, so when you make these changes, and then when you run it, then it will actually have the new validator logic. Okay. So since these are kind of obvious things, I'm gonna actually let you try things out. Okay, so question. One more question. So, can JWable be used with Grails? Yes, it is actually JVM plugin, so it should work on any bytecode. Okay, so whether that code is created using Grails or Groovy or JRuby, it should work. Alright, exercise 4 is for checking out Spring SDK sample Maven project. So they are in Subversion repository. So first of all, you have to download and install the Subversion. Okay, and then you should be able to run this command, so you can check out this sample code. So I'm gonna just copy these things out, and maybe I'll do and this. Then it will check out all the sample application. So it will take maybe a few minutes. I'm not sure why it's actually stuck there. Okay, so let me try one more time. Yeah, I'm not sure why it's actually hung. Oh, okay, alright, now it's doing it. It looks like the server. What is this revision? Okay, let's try a different directory. Okay, now it's copying it. Yeah. Okay, so it's checking out all this sample application. So these are all Maven projects. So all you have to do is just import this Maven project, and then you should be able to run it. Okay, so that is pretty much it. And again, these are Maven project. You can just import as we did before, and then you should be able to run it. Alright, so that is the end of today's presentation. So let me explain the homework exercise. So the homework exercise is to create a new Maven project called Homework Spring 3 Maven. Let me just close this guy. It's a bit annoying. And I'm going to ask you to create the new project by copying Pet Clinic parent project. Okay. And then you're going to add another validator of your own called your validator. So you just copy the my validator.java and create a your validator, and just add whatever logic you want there. Okay, and then you're going to use your validator for owner validation. So basically, you're going to call this object validate method. So only thing you have to do is basically copy this guy and create a new your validator and change the logic a little bit, and then you are going to change the context configuration file to declare this new validator Java class, new validator class, and then you're going to actually use it as you did with the with the my validator. So very simple logic. And then JWable. So you can get 3-month free JWable license from this location. And then you are going to configure this JWable with TC-Serve and Tomcat as described in these two documentation, and verify if JWable works. So meaning you make some changes and see the changes right away. Now, the JWable is a commercial product, so here you can get the 3-month free license. So after this 3-month free license expires, your application still should work without a problem. You basically have to redeploy the application to see the change, but the logic wise, it shouldn't affect your application at all. Okay, but I want you to actually experience how much time you can save using JWable. Okay, Alright, so that's the end of today's presentation. So let me just finish